Hello viewers, my name is Simon Musagwiza, an educator at Palmerton High School in OR Tambo district in the Eastern Cape. Welcome to the Eastern Cape province studio. Today I'm going to present 3 topics, namely number 1, farming production systems and methods. Number 2, precision farming. And number 3, business survival strategies. Let me start with the first topic, that is farming or production systems and methods. This topic is subdivided into 2 subtopics, that is 1, farming systems, under which we have 2 subheadings, that is subsistence farming and commercial farming. Number 2 will be farming methods, and we have 5 of them that I'm going to list. That is intensive farming, semi-intensive farming, extensive farming, and organic farming. Now, let me get into the details on the farming methods. So on the farming production systems. Let me define the term farming systems. It is a setup of all the resources for the production of crops and animals. We understand that farmers use different resources like capital, labor, machinery, etc. Now, if we put them together, they give us a particular farming system. If you look at the 2 pictures shown here, figure 1.1, that is showing us subsistence farming system. Then figure 1.2 is showing us the commercial farming system. Now, we shall look more into the details on the next subheading, which is 1.1, subsistence farming. Now, what is subsistence farming? It is the production of crops and livestock, one would say food, for the self-sustenance, with any extra, which is the surplus, being sold. Now, how do we describe subsistence farming? It's characterized by a lot of factors. Number 1, plants and animals are produced on a small area. So in terms of the area there, the area is very small. Okay, second point is that it is not mechanized. It only depends on hand tools, just the simple hand tools. It only sells the surplus. Otherwise, the main issue here is about food production to feed the family. Then there's no profit that is made, since this is not business. This is just meant to feed the family. There's very little that is spent on inputs such as fertilizers, chemicals, animal feeds. I'm now going to look at semi-intensive farming method. Now, semi-intensive is where animals are partially provided with feed, and also partially they depend on natural resources. So in this regard, we are saying you give the animals feed early in the morning, then you allow them to move around searching for extra feed for themselves. Now, this system, it partially depends on technology and also partially depends on natural resources. So, which means there's little investment in terms of capital that is done here. And the animals are kept in shelter, especially during the night, to protect them from predators and also to protect them from harsh weather conditions. Then during the day, they move around freely, just looking for their own feed. So one example there is free-range system in chickens. Then there is moderate use of inputs such as labor and capital. You don't need too much labor, you don't need too much capital. So you just invest a little bit on those. Okay, if you look at the pictures that I'm having here, figure 2.2.1, that is an example of free-range system in chickens. Now you'd notice, like I described earlier on, that they are provided with shelter. There is some shelter for the chickens for the night, and also during the day they are moving around in a big fenced area looking for feed. But before you allow them to move around, you provide feed for them. So you are partially providing feed, which is not enough for the chickens. Then on figure 2.2.2, we can see some pigs there, and there's also a shelter that is provided there, and you can also see that the pigs are moving around in a fenced area, and they'll be looking for feed. That is semi-intensive farming. Now, farming method number 3 is extensive farming. Okay, with extensive farming system, this is where we are producing very high volumes of crops and animal products, and the main purpose is to sell. Now, in this regard, the animals mainly depend on a natural veldt which is fenced. So you fence a very big area so that you can produce more crops and more animals. And there is no shelter that is provided. The animals are just roaming around throughout, whether it's day, it's night, the area is fenced. It mainly depends on a large piece of land, availability of land. The bigger the land you have, the more you produce. Whether you are producing crops, the bigger the land you have, the more crops you produce. That is extensive. Then there's low capital input and low input of labor resources. And this system is highly mechanized. It's highly mechanized. So they use a lot of machines, especially in the case of crop production, in the case of crops. Okay, so we have a few examples that are shown in the picture, the 3 pictures that you can see here. Figure 2.3.1. We are having field crop production. Then we can see a tractor there on a very large piece of land. So it's working on a very large piece of land. Figure 2.3.2, we are having sheep farming on a large piece of land. Then we are having beef cattle ranging on figure 2.3.3. So in terms of these, the last 2 pictures, 2.3.2 and 2.3.3, it's a large fenced area, animals grazing on natural veldt. Okay, now if I can move on to the next slide, which is now looking at the advantages and disadvantages of extensive farming. Most of them are already explained during the discussion on the characteristics of these farming methods. Firstly, we are having low capital input, which has already been explained. We use less fertilizer per unit area in terms of crop production. There's low labor input. You don't need too many workers. Easier to use mechanization. Since the area is large, most machines, they need a large area to maneuver them, such as tractors, combine harvesters, etc. There's less damage to the environment. Remember, you are also using natural resources in terms of animals, so you are not interfering much with the environment. Hence, we have sustainable use of natural resources. Okay, then there's less expenditure on resources since you are not buying a lot, you are not investing a lot, and there is improved animal welfare. Remember, this is one other important aspect in animal production. Animals have to live in conditions that are as natural as possible. Now, the labor efficiency lowers product prices. We know that labor is very expensive. Now, in this regard, you are having less workers, which means less input cost in terms of payment for the workers. So that will actually make food much cheaper. Going to the disadvantages, there are less use per hectare. If we are comparing that with intensive farming where you produce a lot on a small area. In this case, for you to produce, you have to increase the land. There is large land that is cleared for you to grow more crops. So you have to increase the area. You clear more vegetation. It needs supplementary feeding, especially in winter. Natural grass usually lose palatability and they also lose nutrition, so you need to supplement. There is low carrying capacity, especially for the veld. In certain seasons, is having low carrying capacity. Then difficult to control diseases and parasites. That is the last disadvantage. Now I'm going to move on to organic farming, which is the fourth method of farming. What is organic farming? It is the production method of crops that excludes chemicals and artificial fertilizers and pesticides. Now, artificial fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, we don't use them when we are doing organic farming. Now, on the picture that we have, that is figure 2.4, it's showing us just basically the scope of organic farming. And we can see here, this is vermiculture, which is the production of worms. We can see green leaf manures, that is green manuring, crop rotation, biological control of pests and diseases, biofertilizers, animal production in a natural environment, and organic manures. Now, we are saying we don't need chemicals. We use natural products, being them for controlling pests, for fertilizing the soil, etc. But they have to be natural, no chemicals. Now, what are the characteristics of organic farming? It uses organic fertilizers like green manure, bone meal, compost. I think some could be familiar with that. Then it uses techniques such as crop rotation, companion farming, catch cropping, so that you control pests and diseases instead of using chemicals. And it produces less per hectare. So the production per hectare is low, but the input cost is high. These are the basic characteristics of organic farming. Okay, now let's look a little bit on the advantages or benefits of organic farming. It is less harmful to the environment. It improves soil health. It is suitable for, it's a suitable farming method which is desirable because it doesn't interfere with the natural ecosystem. It minimizes soil erosion, it maintains water quality, and it has no residual effects of agricultural chemicals in food. This is why most people prefer organic foods, because they have little residual effects of chemicals that are used in farming. Okay, now when you are choosing these farming methods, what do you consider? One, profitability. Are you going to make any profit when you go into organic farming, into intensive farming or extensive farming? How efficient is this method? Okay, whether you are doing crop production or animal production, you need to compare these methods before you choose. Then consider the markets. How far are they from the farm? Otherwise, that has an impact on the transportation cost of your products. You consider natural resources and the climate, where you are located, what natural resources do you have in terms of health and other resources, water supplies, etc. Consider the policies of the government relating to the access and control of resources, such as water resources. There are certain regulations, laws that control that. And you also consider human capital and education. Now, lastly, you consider the social, economic factors. Now, I'm going to leave you with an activity where there are 3 questions, and our viewers, you can respond to these activities. Otherwise, we have come to the end of our lesson. You can leave your questions on the comment section. Don't forget to leave the name of your school so that we can give shout outs. Please share, recommend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lesson. That will be on business survival techniques.